should go out there and take some classes, but never with the idea that you're not going to be worthwhile as a person if you don't have a college education. So now I have about $80,000 that I need to pay back for a shit degree.
I'm in the same spot. Yeah.
So I
it's funny. I'm a paramedic, and so I spent X amount of dollars of student loan debt to get my bachelor's degree that I'm probably not going to use, and I spent maybe $1,400 at PEMA to get my paramedic degree, and that's how I've earned most of my money. So there are definitely different ways to be educated, and there are also, it's one of the things that I do agree with some conservatives talking about bringing back trade schools and bringing back community colleges.
I 100% agree with that. But where we don't agree, I think those should be public institutions.
Absolutely.
We should be funding those for people.
Yeah.
Because even $1,400 or $900 or $5,000 or $10,000 is completely... most people just can't do it.
Right, you can't do. I got lucky that I was able to, when I went to medic class, 13 years ago, I paid cash. I had the money, but that's because I had a lot of benefits. I had good parents, I had education. I'm from this country, and I had some slight disadvantages, but I can pass for white even though I'm not, and it's just. It was one of those things where I was able to advance through, and because of some good luck and a very good mother, a very good single mother who took great care of me and saved my life a few times, I was able to achieve my goals. But again, and we're both, we're very strong Bernie Sanders supporters. Everybody kind of says, oh, well, you just want stuff for free. We're not talking about free. Right. When we're talking about single-payer universal health care, we're talking about public funded. When we're talking about free public education, we're not talking about free. We're talking about investing in our youth, or whoever, it doesn't have to be youth, but investing in our citizens or our residents who want to be educated and be better parts of society. Otherwise, they're going to be on the streets doing crime.
Therefore, we have a better society because of it, right? If these people were actually business-minded, they would agree with investing in humanity and investing in our future and investing in stronger cities, and that's how you get flourishing communities, as you invest in people and in education. And so this has never been about free stuff. It's just about some people should have it and then other people shouldn't, and that's the end
and
of
that's
it.
and that's demonstrated in our country's and the world's huge income gap between the income disparity is just ridiculous. It's 1% of the population owns like 90% of the wealth.
And I think it's even smaller than that. The less than 1% owns almost everything. It's really quite astonishing.
Yeah. So what are the issues now? Because we're coming up into the midterm election cycle. What are the issues now that you are working hard on, or at least passionate about?
There's not a lot. If I can be completely honest with you. After the 2016 election, where we won the minimum wage campaign in Arizona, which is significant and groundbreaking, and
we also won the popular vote in the presidential election.
Right. So I came out of that night, one of the best nights of my life, and so many of my comrades that worked with me on that. But also Trump won that night, right?
Yeah.
Which was shocking. So we had this beautiful party, and we were all celebrating, and he's winning in the background, and we don't even realize it. And then all of a sudden, people are crying everywhere, and balloons are popping, and I'm just, at that point, I'm too drunk to even care. But it turned, a lot of the people that I was with were really upset, and I was upset because I'm a migrant, I was not a citizen, not even close to being a citizen. I'm a woman, I'm all of these things, and I just couldn't believe that something like that could happen. And that was the really naive me, I thought, I wondered why Trump hated us so much. What I learned in the subsequent months after that is, like we mentioned earlier before we went on air, or maybe we were already on air, it doesn't matter who's in the White House. It really doesn't often matter who's in the White House. They all hate us the same. Like one time I wondered out loud on Facebook, what did Bill Clinton hate black people more or immigrants more? Because when you actually look at his policies and what he did, it's really hard to tell who he hated the most. So for me, after that, I've really taken a big step back from the voting saves our lives, because it doesn't. It's a small tool. It's a tool that we have. It's a tool that we should exercise. But this year, I was behind one candidate, Kelly Fryer, here locally, but I could have worked with her, and I decided not to. And you know why? Because it's a constant game. It's just every year or two. It's the most important election of our lives. We, as people of color who have a platform, are asked to work our butts off and to put everything behind this one person or behind this one idea. And then we're left out in the cold all of the time. And all of that money that goes into those elections could literally go right into our community. So I really changed my train of thought. I believe deeply that change always comes from within a community, from the people, and that's how we make change. I don't believe it will ever come from a
political movement.
Well, a political movement, yes, but not a Democrat or Republican, not a candidate. It is never top down. It is always bottom up, and that's where I'm focused. That's where I'm at right now.
Okay. So have you kind of given up on politics, or have you decided I'm going to go more local?
No, God, no. I'm still super political, and with People's Defense Initiative, all that we're doing is political. I'm more at the train of thought of local is where it's at.
Right.
Local is where it's at. And even still, I find myself, when I get those notifications on Facebook about flashbacks about how excited, and I really thought we can make a difference with Bernie Sanders, and I remember just really thinking and believing that he would not change everything, but make a big difference, and it's hard for me to admit that, but I admit it wholeheartedly that I was wrong. And I lied to all of my friends when I told them that they should vote because it was going to make a difference, because it didn't make a difference. Hillary Clinton won by 3 million votes, and we have...
And we still have Trump.
We still have Trump. Yeah, it was a...
And it kind of makes you wonder, even though you and I might have a different view of this, it kind of makes you wonder, even if Hillary would have won, where would we be? Would we be in the exact same place? Except we wouldn't have somebody tweeting nonsense every 5 minutes.
As far as working class people and migrants and mass incarceration and austerity, right? Like, and no one being able to afford life, and us, our children being worse off than we are, being in mass debt because we decided to get an education, all the things that everyday people have to choose between. Childcare, for God's sake, right? We almost had a childcare bill passed last year in Tucson. The Democrats were vehemently against it. All they would have done is given some help to working families to help pay for preschool, which I couldn't afford, which is difficult for me.
Of course.
Imagine somebody with another child or with 3 kids. I mean, it's...
Right.
I guess the point is, everyday working class people, which is almost all of us, almost every single one of us, I don't think it would have made a big difference, aside, like you said, these really bright, shiny objects that Trump is throwing everywhere, and we'd be better off in that sense, that perhaps we wouldn't be there. But I do not agree. I think she would have not been anywhere like he is on immigration, but she wouldn't have helped. She wouldn't have passed an immigration reform. She was not behind the $15 national minimum wage. She did not want universal health care. She was definitely pro-war.
Oh yeah, she's hawkish.
Oh, of course, and you know, I think a lot of us Americans, now I can say I am one of you, are very egocentric. We only ever think about us and never think about what this country is doing abroad. And now that we're seeing a president who does what we do abroad here at home,
right,
we are just shocked and appalled. But if we
and yet that's who we are, really.
Right. Well, we are so closed off from the actual reality of the world. Because our media is bought and sold, right? It's corporate media. It's always here. The narrative's always created for us. I think that's how imperialism and repression works in America. Is we have national amnesia. We forget about everything wrong we've ever done as a country. And because our education system is trash, therefore we don't know better. We don't know our history. We don't know our past, right? I wasn't raised reading anything about my culture. I didn't know.
Right.
I had to learn on my own. It's a matter of keeping us stupid, keeping us uneducated, undereducated, keeping us blind to what's actually happening in the world, and America does a damn good job.
Yeah, so maybe politics is the new religion because it's a way to control us.
Absolutely, yeah.
So one of the themes that we've talked about, and we talked about in the last podcast, in fact the last two podcasts, is that I do kind of look at things a little bit different than you, just because I come from a different era. I'm a lot older than you, and I still have a lot of the traditional ingrained things. Is like, no, you still have to vote,
right.
Where you're saying maybe not,
right.
and I understand what you're saying, but so we've talked a lot about with every great thing we've done, there's come an atrocity. So like one of the examples we used is you always hear polls or see them on Facebook or social media, or just ask somebody, like, who's your favorite president? Who do you think was the best president of all time? Well, for me it was FDR. Mm-hmm. FDR came up with the New Deal and Social Security and Medicare, and the idea of the safety net. He's the reason we have term limits. He got us through World War II. But at the same time, this same man, who I think is just an amazing, great person, basically took American citizens or American residents of Japanese descent and put them in concentration camps. So you have an atrocity on one hand, and you have, great things on the other. We were talking about Barack Obama. Barack Obama did his best to bring civility back and intelligence back, and it was great that he was the first black president. And he kind of put us on the path to this economic recovery that some people are seeing. But the truth is, he also murdered a shitload of people with drones.
Deported a lot of people. He deported my brother. My brother's dead now because of that.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Right. And I do want to push back a little bit on what you're saying, only because FDR used to be my favorite president too, and I loved Obama, and I cried when he was elected, like so many of us. I believed what he preached, but FDR did not give us those things. The people gave us those things. He was forced to give us those things because people.
But isn't that what a republic is? Isn't that what a representative democracy is about?
But I feel that when we put it on this one individual, we say FDR woke up one day and decided to give us the New Deal, right? He was a great person.
What's funny about that is I actually said those exact words. It didn't come from him. He didn't, and I was talking about the negative thing, but it's true about the positive stuff too. I said he didn't wake up one day and said, you know what, all those Japanese need to be in a concentration camp.
Right.
So.
Right. But he could have said no.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
With the people.
And that's why it's an atrocity.
Right. It had to be a depression for us to get a social safety net, which is now being chipped away.
Right.
With Obama, he got us out of the recession, but didn't put any banker in prison. Even
Not
the people
one.
like you and Dad. My mom lost her house. My aunt lost her. My mom lived in a neighborhood where almost every single young family there lost their home.
Right.
Lost everything that they had. I mean, people that were retiring lost everything. I haven't even seen the numbers of people that probably died or committed suicide or died because they had no more money or were elderly and had to do without because of that recession, and Obama also bailed out these enormous banks, and I get it, but now they're even worse.
Right.
So now they have even more power.
Right, and what he also set up was by bailing them out, they still exist because they were too big to fail.
Right.
And now that the Republicans are in power, they're just like, oh, all those regulations, yeah, we're just going to get rid of those.
Right.
So.
Right, and a lot of Democrats voted in favor of getting rid of those regulations.
Yes, they did.
Right.
Joe Manchin in particular.
Right. So and that is why I have recently just been really rejecting the notion of this dichotomy. Of course, there are things that they disagree on that makes the parties different. One of them being, the right to choose. Oh my God, everybody loses their shit over that. But it's this thing. It's this thing that is huge. But when you look deeper, the parties are so much so the same. And while I loved Obama, and while I loved him, I saw this one meme that made me laugh so much. It was like, imperialism. Obama made imperialism go down easier with such a great, he was just so...
Yeah, he was smooth. I mean,
and it was just so... And it goes right to what we were talking about. It's like, he bombed the hell out of other countries, put us into new wars, expanded the wars that are already there.
Right.
And under him, the Department of Homeland Security, Border Patrol, and all of that, which is now this wild... We spend more on that branch of government, that brand new department, which is relatively new.
Right.
We spend more than the next 5 programs, than the next 5 departments by far put together.
Right.
Okay? And it ballooned under Obama. So now we've got this massive internal repression department of law enforcement that answers to no one. They answer to no one. That is expanded under him, which when I say American imperialism, we thrive because we forget. Someone once mentioned, like, did we actually think we were going to do these things abroad and that they would never come to our soil? Right. These things, and now they're coming to our soils, and because of the Republicans and because of somebody like Trump, right? But and under Obama, but nobody wanted to talk about it.
Of course not. When you're in power, when your guy's in power, you're just like, yeah, he did that thing, but we're not going to say anything. And what I've always admired are people, and there were a lot of journalists who came out and said, hey, he's still dropping bombs on people's heads. So what are you doing? Are you not voting, or are you writing people in? Or
I just voted yesterday.
Okay, so you mailed your vote in.
Yeah.
So I saw something on your social media. So the big disclaimer here is we're friends on social media, so I can see it. Kirsten Sinema, you had a problem with her, but something tells me you voted for her anyway.
I didn't.
You didn't?
No, but I can tell you that I sat there with that ballot for a long time, and I was going to, and not tell it anybody.
I
was just going to do it and deny it.
And that's another thing. I didn't mean to rudely ask you about your vote, because that's like one of your rights that you have is to keep that to yourself.
I won't tell you on the rest of it, because there were a few people. There was even David Garcia. I was like, I'm not going to vote for him. And I almost voted for the Green Party candidate, who actually has a marvelous platform, but because of my reason why I didn't want to vote for him is because he's going to lose. And you can mark my words on that. So I thought, well, I'll give my vote to the Green Party so that they can retain ballot status.
Right, because it's 2%?
Yeah. And I believe that they should be there. I don't like almost any of their candidates, except Sarah May for District 4, but most of what they do, I don't like anyway. I hated Jill Stein.
Jill Stein was
oh my gosh.
She's an idiot.
Don't even get me started on the Green Party. But I believe that Americans, we should have options. And the Green Party has, with their claws held on to some level of relevancy, which they really need to work on. But I almost didn't vote for him. I voted for him because I know so many people that I really respect and love who've worked really hard on his campaign, and also because, really just for that. But there were other parts, Ann Kirkpatrick in CD2, who is literally a fucking Republican.
I was about to say she's always been a Republican.
Next to Leah Marquez. We can go for 2 hours about the two of them and my experience with both of them during the minimum wage campaign. Ann Kirkpatrick being just an opportunistic, horrible politician. Me having to do so many picture ops for her during the minimum wage campaign. She didn't give a shit about workers. Another one, Leah Marquez being on the opposite side of that. So Leah Marquez literally going to town halls that I was in, lying to folks, saying that minimum wage was going to hurt people that made minimum wage the most.
And none of the studies, all of the studies and all of the historical data has always said that not only does it not drive wages up, but does it not drive costs up? But it drives wages up across the board.
It does.
So if somebody working at McDonald's makes $15 an hour, and a paramedic used to make $15 an hour, guess what? The paramedic's going to be making 21 because that's what we make now. We make about 21.
Good.
So it's a misnomer. It's always been a falsehood, and it's sad that we even have to continue to talk about the things. But I want to break into this. What do you know about Andrew Yang?
I don't know if I know anything.
Okay, so Andrew Yang is a former entrepreneur, and I think he has it right. He's running as a Democrat. However, for president, he's running as a Democrat. However, he's saying that all of the things that we're talking about now, the border and tax cuts and this and that, are irrelevant. Because nobody's going to want to come from Mexico or anywhere else in 20 years when there are no jobs, because they're all going to be automated. Because AI is going to make things go away. One of the most predictable leaps in technology is self-driving cars. And if you don't think that's going to happen, you're going to get left in the dust, because there's going to be self-driving cars and there's going to be self-driving trucks, and one of the most prevalent jobs in the world, especially for low to middle income people, is truck driver. And that job is going to go away. So
that's a bummer.
I've
always wanted to be a truck driver. That's my fallback career.
The funny thing about that is, you can joke about it, but I've actually been there where it's like, man, I'm having a hard time finding a job. Do I need to just go get my CDL? But what Andrew Yang is proposing is a universal basic income. Because what's going to happen is we're going to have, we already have 8 billion people on the planet, and people aren't going to stop having sex. They're just not. And they're not going to stop having babies. And we're going to have people that are unemployable. They're not going to have the skills. They're not going to have a job to go to anymore, because that job is going to be done by a robot or a computer or an algorithm. And so let's give them $1,000 a month. Let's give everybody $1,000 a month so that you can do your basic things. So it's somebody I suggest that you Google, and that's what I've been looking at. I've been looking at real, tangible ways to solve the problems that we have now and that we're going to have in the future, as opposed to I'm right, I'm left. I'm pro-life. I'm pro. People who are pro-life are never going to be pro-choice. People who are pro-choice are never going to be pro-life. So all this fighting about it is kind of a waste of time, because what's going to end up happening, I think, with the pro-life people is, even if they use Kavanaugh to overturn Roe versus Wade, the second that they see what was happening in the 70s, which is why we have Roe versus Wade, is that women are just going to go self-abort, and it's going to cause a major healthcare problem.
It's never going to happen. Those people don't give a damn about what happens at the Supreme Court. These same pro-life people are the same ones who will never say a damn word about the fact that the Supreme Court decided that corporations are people.
Yeah, how is a corporation a person?
Exactly, yeah. A fetus or an embryo is a person, right? So it's all nonsense. It's all just a smokescreen for me. I would go a little bit further because, as you said, I'm further left than you. That Andrew, was it?
Yeah, Andrew.
I actually really like the idea of universal income because the studies show that when you give poor people money, they use it to help
they spend
themselves.
it, right?
They spend it.
It's not like they hoard it.
No,
and
all of it we use. We don't put $1 billion in the bank to offshore accounts and never touch it. The working class, all of our money goes right back into the economy. I would just say that that's not the root of the problem. The root of the problem is this: it's capitalism. If we had control of corporations and we had control, right? And we go, you know what? People are never going to stop having babies. Right? We don't want them to. We want people to have children. Everybody has a right to live and be happy and procreate. It's their biological right. It's their social right. So that's one. We know. Everybody needs jobs. Okay, so we need that.
Right.
Everybody needs things, right? We need things to survive. We need houses. We need cars. We want an education. We also want the freedom to pursue our happiness. So if we as people had control of what happens next with technology, I would say that normal, everyday people would go, you know what? Let's not automate that job.
I can tell you right now that's never going to happen in our capitalistic corporate culture because companies are going to be like, well, I can pay 100 humans, $500,000 to do this, and I can make a one-time investment in these robots and never have to pay those humans again. You know what they're going to do.
Oh, absolutely. But if we can imagine something being different, then we would know that, one, we would have control, or we let it happen. We let certain things, because as we know right now, the employment rate is this, and the production rate is up because technology improves production. So if we were a smart society, and if maybe in the future we got rid of capitalism or what it looks like now,
right,
we can have production going up, therefore you and I have to work less, not 40 hours
a week, yeah.
So we have we work 3 days out of the week. We get paid more because our jobs are producing more. It's producing more, and we're given a certain level of because these jobs are producing and we shouldn't have to work as much. Instead of them starving us for hours and wages, it would be fair that we are producing more, even though we're working, we're working this amount of hours. Then it would just make sense that all of that wealth that we were just discussing earlier about the 1% versus the 90%, there's so much wealth, there's so many resources there. If they were spread evenly, then we wouldn't need a universal basic income. If you had a job that paid you fairly.
You're not per se a democratic socialist. You're just a socialist.
I am, yeah. I am, but that is not to say that the thing about people is when we say we're socialists or Marxists or even communists, right? Same thing as socialism,
right.
Really. They go right back to the past and go, well, here's where it failed. This is what was wrong with it. This is what's going on. I think a lot of us socialists who are in this train of thought now know that whatever we did in the past is not going to work in this present time. Yeah. We are trying to develop something new. We need something that's different. Socialism, yes, because when we think about it, if we own the means, we do what's best for us, and we collectively make choices together, which is how we got to be the smart and brilliant humans that we are right now and successful humans that we are right now is throughout human history, not modern history, human history. You see massive collaboration. You see we are a brother's keeper. You see we take care of each other before we take care of ourselves. And that is still human and innate and built into our DNA. People will jump in front of a truck to save a person they don't know. Because we are hardwired for it.
That's actually what I've done all my life, yeah.
You do it. That's communism in you.
Well, there's a lot of communism and socialism in our system. It really is. I mean, if you like sports at all, if you look at baseball and basketball and football, that's socialism. Social Security is socialism. Medicare is socialism. you are further left than I am, but I understand where you're coming from. I do have concerns about, and you very deftly and intelligently covered it, but I worry about the practical problems of corruption, because we already have a corrupt system. The capitalist system is corrupt, and then we saw what happened with pure communist systems that were corrupt. But let's look at the Chinese. Now, they're horrible on human rights, so they have a lot of work to do there. But they have kind of a hybrid communist capitalist system that economically works. So
they've pulled millions out of poverty in their country.
Right.
Millions.
So I think what you're saying that would line up with what I believe, and obviously you don't have to line up with what I believe, but I think what you're saying is that there's a better way to do things. Like, for example, when I talk to people about one of my biggest issues is single payer. I want single payer healthcare, because being in the healthcare field, what people don't realize is how we pay for it is the least of our problems. It's the least of our problems. We've got people who, don't believe in vaccinations anymore. We've got polio coming back. We've got, why pestis coming back. We've got the measles, mumps, and all that stuff. It's coming back. And it's coming back because people, have these strange ideas that they get from wherever they get them. So
the internet.
Yeah, right. The internet.
It's just another
the fucking
dialectical
internet.
thing.
Yeah.
We have massive information at our fingertips, and
we play Candy Crush with it.
But the backside of
or
it
watch
is
porn.
that some people then or look up conspiracy theories that are anti-vaccine and anti-everything that makes sense. Anyway, go ahead.
Right, but what I always tell people about, especially because I used to be a cop, so I have a lot of Republican friends. I'm actually married to a Republican. It's Arizona. What am I going to do? And she loves me, and she loves me, and she treats me like a king. So
good.
I can't really even complain. I love you, Tracy.
Didn't you just get married?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Yeah, we eloped. Because who has $20,000 to spend on a wedding? And even if you had $20,000, why not spend it on the honeymoon?
Right, exactly.
So, but what I always say to my Republican friends when they say, "Oh well, single payer, won't work," because I know friends that come from Canada to come to America to get surgeries. Well, first of all, if you can afford to get on that plane and you have time to get on that plane, maybe you don't need the surgery quite yet. And the truth is, Canada does have a problem with wait times and backlogs, but nobody's dying because of it.
No.
And what I always say is, you talked about American imperialism, and what goes hand in hand with that is the so-called American exceptionalism. Now, that's not something I really believe in, but let's play the devil's advocate and say I believed in American exceptionalism. You mean to tell me that we can't take Canada's systems and Britain's system and Australia's system is really good. France's system, which is kind of a hybrid, they also have paid insurance if you can afford it, and it's basically for like plastic surgery and stuff like that. We can't take one of those systems and make it American and make it better, so that everybody can have health care. Because the bottom line for me is, health care is a right. Health care is a moral obligation that we have to each other. It is. People say it's not in the Constitution. It's in the first fucking line. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That is what it's about. So when I talk about single-payer health care, I talk about, if we're so exceptional, why can't we make our version of single-payer health care that would work?
If we can be in 7, 8, 9 wars at a time, the ones that we know of, by the way,
right?
How on Earth can we not have universal health care? We
are the only nation.
We are so rich, it's disgusting how rich we are. It's obscene. I describe it as obscene wealth. We are obscenely wealthy. We can do it. We spend more money on healthcare anyway because people can't afford it. We can do it.
Right. So
we just refuse to do it.
When I talk to people about this, and it's funny, I have a very conservative friend who is in medical school now, and he flipped. He said we absolutely need single payer because when you look at who ranks best in health, we're like 32nd. And I said, and they're like, well, what about these people? Wait, I'm like, you can just stop talking about that because here are the measurements. Morbidity, which is the amount of people that are sick and how sick they are. Mortality, which is the amount of people who are dying. And life expectancy. So that's how they measure who rates in healthcare. So if a country is above us in healthcare, that means they're not as sick as we are, they're not dying as much as we are, and they're living longer. Those are measurable scientific things that you cannot argue with. So what is your reason for not going to this system? Greed.
Right.
It's that simple. And I'm sorry, we're not going to put insurance companies out of work because there's a million and one things you can insure. Kim Kardashian insures her butt.
Yeah, there's so many things that they can do. Plus, anyway, I don't believe that something like healthcare should be a for-profit market anyway.
Absolutely not. In fact, one of the things, I'm actually starting law school in January, and I'm starting to understand a little bit more about it because you have to kind of take precursor courses. But one of the things I've always said, I was like, why do laws have to be like 5,000 pages long? Why can't we just pass a law that is like one sentence? It is illegal to profit from healthcare. It is illegal to profit from the suffering of others.
Right.
Now I do understand there are some technical reasons why you can't pass a law like that, but the core of the law could be you can't profit off the loss of somebody else's health.
Right.
So it's amazing to me. What do you think about if we bring this all together? We've talked about borders. We've talked about political parties being basically the same. We've talked about the different types of governments, socialism, communism, political dynamics. What do you think about a one world government?
I'm not sure what I think about that because, like I mentioned earlier, a nation state is a natural thing that happens.
It is.
Right, so the right to self-determination, we have a group, a region, and it's filled with people who have they have the same culture, they eat the same foods, they speak the same language, they often share a religion, and one day they decide we want to become our own nation. Let's just put Tucson in there, right? It's Tucson.
Okay.
A lot of us are the same in so many ways. And we decide we want to move away from Arizona. I guess we're deep blue in Tucson. Let's move away from Arizona. Let's recede. Let's say we want to govern ourselves. Let's say we want to pull away from this crazy Arizona state that runs, right? We want to have healthcare. We want to have this. We want to run our own stuff. We should, in my beliefs, we should have the right to do something like that.
Self-determination in itself is an anathema to a world government.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know what one large. I think we're going in that direction because of globalism, globalization.
But I think that's more about communications and business and education and the sharing of ideas.
Globalization?
I don't know that. And what I was trying to do with that question was show that there are going to be a lot of people, and I'm not one of them, but there are going to be a lot of people like wow, he had this crazy communist, one world government type of person on the show, and it's nobody thinks like that. And one of the things we were talking about earlier is that and a lot of older people think this. It's a historical thing. Like the older you get, the more you think that everybody's dumb. But I think our educational system is failing us. I think there are a very large group of ignorant people. Most of them are wearing MAGA hats, and I think that we have become very tribal, and I think that we pit ourselves against each other with these narratives, and none of it is how people work. People have complex thoughts, not every liberal is against the Second Amendment. Not every conservative is pro-life. But if you ask them in a poll, or if you get them in a group, or if you get them at a Trump rally, and they're right down the line, they're going to yell and scream and cheer for the things that the party is supposed to do.
Right.
And so there's a lack of sophistication, there's a lack of nuance, and there's a lack of these long-form conversations that we don't have with each other. It's just kind of like, oh, you're a Democrat? Yeah, I can't talk to you.
Right, yeah. I also reject that notion. Someone the other day said something like, you actually like the things I say? I'm not too centrist for you? And I was like, gosh, people think because I am a certain way and I believe certain things, that I'm unaccepting of people. I definitely do not accept you if you think I should die, or if you think, right, if you think I should be deported, or if you think I don't have a right to life, liberty, and happiness because of where I was born. And in that case, then, if your beliefs are against my existence, then I'm not going to be your friend. But on the other things, the normal, minuscule things, I have friends that are anarchists, I have friends that are Republicans, I have friends that are, and everywhere in between. And this is because I've been a long time Tucson native. Before I got started in community organizing, I was a bartender. I was a bartender at Vaudeville, which was a punk rock bar. Nice. I was the only girl in a team full of tattooed ex-felons who were on all sorts of different spectrums of political beliefs, and that is my background. I have friends of all sorts, and we are so cool with each other, and we will have these conversations and not come to the same conclusion, and maybe once in a while we'll get heated, but we'll remain friends.
Exactly.
We remain friends, and we understand, and oftentimes really joke around, and a lot of times we each have really good criticisms of each other, and it makes us grow.
Yeah, it makes you a better person.
It makes us grow. It makes you develop your ideas even further. You know what I mean? And I did want to just go back to the one world government. Like, don't we have one? The United States does anything that they want. They run the world almost completely.
Unless China doesn't want us to.
China, and that's why I give so much props to China, because unlike us, they're not going around the world bombing people because of human rights violations, because somehow I'm human. But they could, but they don't.
Absolutely could.
But they don't, right? We, as Americans and as the United States government, we think we can go around policing the whole world if there is something that we don't like, and we are the biggest hypocrites on the planet every time we talk about human rights. We have thousands of homeless people in Tucson, in LA, full tent cities. We have
don't understand.
Old people dying with,
I was born in 1967.
And my mom was born that year too.
Yeah, I was born in oh God, I'm old enough to be a father. I was born in 1967, and homelessness was a problem then. What the fuck? 51 years of this, and it was probably a problem then, and it's only gotten worse. And we've had dips, we've had rises in homelessness, and there's been falling. And now, I actually worked in South Tucson. I worked on paramedic. It was 899, and then it was 149, and I ran calls and gave medical attention to many homeless people, and it's become so ingrained in our society that it is a culture. If you talk to some homeless people, especially homeless vets, if there was help available, they wouldn't take it. But that's because they know the overall system is corrupt, and they've been living like that for so long. I guarantee you, before they were homeless, they wouldn't have chose to be homeless. But once they became homeless, it's like, well, this is the way I live. And it's just so sad that, again, back to American exceptionalism, and one of the reasons I don't believe in it is we can't solve homelessness, we can't solve poverty, we can't, look at Flint, Michigan, we can't have clean water.
It's a deep level of hypocrisy on our side, and again, there was that one survey, right, that found that around the world people view the United States as the number one threat to peace. We are. And people just don't, like you said, out of sight, out of mind. Like we should not be meddling in anything, and that's why I'm like, I don't know about one world government, because that seems like a lot of meddling. Like, we stay the hell out unless it's an app. We stay out. It's none of our business. You know what we do? We should, instead of investing in giving money to Israel or other countries, Guatemala or Honduras, for militarization, can we invest in their people? Can we give them money so they can build some schools and rebuild their hospitals and have a food program? I mean, look at Cuba, like what we've done to that country.
Right.
What we've done to that country, they would be thriving, and they've done their best with what they've had, we have no right. And we should really, again, can we stop minding everybody else's business and start taking care of our own? Can we start taking care of our own?
It's funny when you listen to, because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and for a long time I really, as a kind of, as a opposition research type of thing, I listened to nothing but conservative radio, because I wanted to hear the nonsense that they were telling people. And when you listen to that, you get this brainwashed type of, and
you do.
I really think that we are completely wrong about the things that we're worried about.
Yeah.
We're not worried about diseases. We're not worried about, how we're going to take care of all of our people. And you're right. There are so many simple problems that we have not solved yet, and we've had Democrats, Republicans, even before, when the parties flipped and Democrats were the racists, and then before that we had the Whig Party and whatever, and we haven't solved any of the very solvable problems. And this is again, I really pick up Andrew Yang's book. It's called The War Against Normal People, which, that title is right up your alley.
Right.
It's The War Against Normal People, and look at what is going to be coming soon. And I'm not telling you to vote for the guy, because I myself might not be voting for him, because I'm not going to vote for a loser. So we agree on that, although we also disagree, where I'm probably always going to be a single issue voter. I'm 51. In 15, 16, 17 years, I want to retire. I don't want to work anymore. I'm tired of working. All right? So whatever party is going to get me Social Security, which is probably going to be the Democrats, that's who I'm voting for. So if I have to hold my nose and vote for Hillary Clinton, I'm going to hold my nose and vote for Hillary Clinton.
And I completely respect that, and I approve of that, yeah. I went during the minimum wage campaign. I was invited to a radio show, well, one of them, and this guy was known to be a conservative / libertarian, and I had a lot of warnings about it, and I thought, okay, well, screw it, let's just do it. And I think what you were touching at right now is that we are worried about the wrong things. It's because that narrative is created for us. That's
on both sides.
That's on both sides.
On both sides.
The narrative is created for us. He and I sat there, and keep in mind, I'm telling him that I'm there because I want law to make companies pay their employees more, and not just pay their employee more, but also give them earned paid sick time, which was the other side of that minimum wage campaign.
Yes, which is, and thank you for that.
Yeah, and you know, it's crazy. I've had friends message me throughout the years and go, hey, I took today off. Oh my God, and I was able to do it because of what you guys did. And so just imagine, right? He's at first very off-putting and kind of, you know, pushing back against a lot of things. But like the more we conversed, and the more that we created our own narrative, which is just like this, like, hey, you're a libertarian, but don't you think like people working 40 hours a week and not being able to make ends meet is kind of wrong, no matter what job they're doing? And little by little, when you actually create your own narrative and you talk like this, person to person, like I said, we agree on mostly all the things that we should agree on. We want to live, we want to retire, we want to have health care, we want our children to be safe and happy.
Right, and that's what I don't understand about. There are so many issues that everybody agrees on. You know, like when it comes to gun control, you may be pro-gun, you may be anti-gun, whatever. I own a gun. You know, you have to. It's actually a capacity problem because you're just not going to get rid of all of them. But like almost everybody, when polled, agrees that we need some background checks. We need to say that guy doesn't need a gun.
I'm gonna get super socialisty on you right now,
Go for
but
it.
like, you know what that is. And I remember I used to hear and I'd be like, stop it, that annoys me. But that less than 1%, the people who run the world,
right?
The people who run our government, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican, there we just agreed that it's a pendulum. It swings all the time, and it's always the most important election, and we're all gonna die if we don't do the right thing. Which we just might now because of global warming, but that's a whole different story. The elite and the people who actually run this world do not want us to agree on anything.
No.
If we start sitting down and talking and that narrative is not blasted and it's not put in our face 24/7. I mean, when Warren did that really stupid thing and put her DNA out there and said, you see, I am part Cherokee. MSNBC, CNN, Fox, all of them had that playing all day long.
Yeah.
That same day, what was it, Indiana or one of those states, their Supreme Court ruled that indigenous people basically can't vote because they don't have addresses.
Right. Yeah. There's been all kinds of voter suppression. I mean, in Georgia, what was it, 500 or 5,000 that they, and it was almost all African Americans. By the way, that's a word I hate. I've been using black all my life. I'm going to say black. It was almost all black Americans that got taken off the rolls. And this is the kind of thing they go, oh, look at this shiny thing over here while we're doing this thing over there.
Right. So it's not that us people are arguing about things that don't matter. We are doing that, but it's because we're not creating our own reality and our own narrative. And it's because this back and forth fighting over stupid little issues that we can work out eventually is completely beneficial to the military state. It's completely beneficial to those staying in power that are in power. It's completely beneficial to us never getting healthcare because that's not going to make money for pharmaceutical companies or for healthcare companies. It's about us never getting green energy, switching over completely to that because of oil companies that really run everything. So it's a matter of just realizing that it's not me against you, it's us against them.
Right, and you are so right. There are so many things that intertwine that we can all agree on, but the people that are in charge of the people that are in charge, because that's what it really is. The people that are in charge aren't holding office. They're holding money.
Oh, yeah.
So the people in charge that are in charge of the people that are supposedly elected, they want us fighting.
Oh, absolutely.
So I encourage you to continue these long-form conversations. Like I told you before, I want you to, if you had a book, I want you to plug it. You don't have one, so maybe you should start writing one. Maybe you should consider doing your own podcast. And you can come back on the show anytime. It was a joy to have you.
Thank you for having me on.
It's awesome to have intelligent conversation with not only somebody who has a very unique point of view, but somebody who's actually been out there and done things for the community. So thank you very much for everything you've done, and thank you for being on the show.
Of course, thanks for having me. It was fun. I'll come back anytime.
Please do.
Did it work?